Welcome to Mac Stories Unwind, a show that's all about the picks. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is a special guest, Alex Gio. Hey, Alex.
Hey, John. How's it going today?
Good. This is another in the continuing saga of podcasts where we have given Federico a little breather to enjoy his birthday, because we recording this just the day after his birthday, and we're giving him the whole week off so he can enjoy himself down at the beach. But we have picks for everybody. Of course, we have picks. We have picks from me, and we've got a pick from Alex. So I'm going to kick it off and talk to you a little bit, Alex, about a show that I discovered called Patagonia: Life on the Edge of the World, which is a documentary made by CNN. It's got 6 parts. And of course, what appealed to me about this was that about 10 years ago, I went to Patagonia and I toured primarily through Argentina in about midway down Argentina, down all the way to the tip of South America, and then over to the Chilean side, and saw a bunch, mostly spent my time in the deserts and in the mountains, and wanted to see what, this documentary was all about and see some of that stuff and revisit some of that. And what I really like about this documentary is that, first of all, it's 6 parts, each centered on a different ecosystem of Patagonia, because Patagonia is like 1,000 miles long. It traverses both of those countries from along the Andes on the east and west coasts, or east and west sides of those mountains. And it's got quite a diversity of ecology there. So the first episode is all about the coast. And the coast is actually the part of Patagonia I didn't see much of, because most of the interesting coast wildlife is on the Chilean side, where there are a bunch of fjords and, lots of fish and dolphins and sharks and whales and all kinds of interesting wildlife on that side. I spent an awful lot of my time on the other side, on the Argentinian side, where it's a lot more arid because most of the weather is traveling from west to east. It gets up into the Andes, dumps all the water in the top of the Andes, creating snow and glaciers. And then it's very arid on the Argentinian side as a result. But through these episodes, you get to see that arid side where you have gauchos who are raising primarily sheep and also other animals, sometimes goats, etc. And you see the pumas, which are at the top of the food chain in Patagonia. They will hunt there's a relative of the llama that is a wild animal. I forget what it's called, but it's the pumas hunt them. But then when the pumas they hunt the sheep, because the sheep are nice and slow and they can catch the sheep a lot easier. So there's this tension between people who are farming and ranching and then, preserving the wildlife of this really unique part of the world.
And I'm learning all kinds of things.
Yeah, so you got that. And then you've got, of course, the mountains, which the interesting thing about the Andes is that they really rise up from sea level. It's not like when you go to maybe say the Rocky Mountains or something, where you're already at a pretty good elevation when you get to when you're in like Denver, or you get up into a town like Boulder. And then you're just going up from there once you're in the mountains. The Andes are rising from sea level, so they're very easy to hike compared to other steep mountains that are snow-capped. So I spent some time there, and they cover that. They cover the the glaciers there, which are really cool. And then they have an episode all about the very tip of Patagonia down near Tierra del Fuego, where Argentina and Chile meet. And there are a lot of penguins down there. And I actually, while I was down there, I took a boat out to an island that was nothing but penguins. And it had something like 20 or 30,000 penguins, which is a lot of penguins. That island was nothing but a mound of dirt with a bunch of holes in it where the penguins lived, and penguin poop.
Wow.
It was a very smelly place, let me tell you. But the penguins were pretty cool.
I want to see a picture of John just among the penguins.
The Magellan penguins is what they were. So they were pretty cool. And they would swim along the side of the boats and stuff like that. But it was neat kind of watching this and recapturing some of that stuff that I saw, as well as seeing parts of it that I really didn't visit when I was there as well. And I'll put a link in the show notes. You can get this on the iTunes store where you can buy it. If you have the right I think you have to subscribe to CNN. I forget what CNN's deal is these days. I suspect
CNN
that
Plus.
no, you know what? I suspect that this was destined for CNN Plus.
Yeah.
Probably it's that kind of content.
Yeah, I bet.
But it is airing on CNN. So depending, you might be able to get it on something like YouTube TV Live or maybe on Hulu Live or one of the services that have full on CNN. I don't have full on CNN at my home, so I ended up buying this on iTunes, which, I've enjoyed it. It's, at times the narrator is a little breathless, how they do with wildlife documentaries, where it's a little overly dramatic at times.
Yeah.
But it also does a pretty nice job of not just focusing on the animals, but also on the people and the culture of the region and kind of how the wildlife and the people in that area they kind of interact and intersect. And I think the one thing that they don't do as well is that obviously they may need to make TV entertaining. The reality of a lot of Patagonia is it's a very empty place where you can drive for hours and not see another human.
Wow.
Where only like 2 planes fly overhead anytime during the day. If you're not near, one of the major cities of those countries, when you're deep in Patagonia, you don't see planes, you don't see other cars, you don't see other people, and you rarely see animals until you're somewhere like you're on the coast where you're in the ocean or something like that.
Or in a pile of penguins.
Exactly. Or in a very intense penguin island. I call it. Los Penguinos is what they're called in Spanish. Yes. All right. Well, that's my tip for today. Go check out Patagonia, Life on the Edge of the World.
That sounds awesome.
It's really pretty cool. What have you got for me today, Alex?
All right. I have a new Hulu movie, Prey, which is the 5th installment of the Predator franchise. And
Nice.
It stars Amber Midthunder in the lead role as Naru, who is a part of the Comanche Nation, and it's kind of the whole movie centers around a tribe of Comanche back in, I think it's set in North America in 1719 in the northern Great Plains. And this movie, if anyone's familiar with the Predator franchise, which goes way back, they tend to, the basic plot is that some species of alien, a predator, arrives on this planet, and their only kind of goal in life is the thrill of the hunt. And so they want to find the greatest warrior or the greatest, threat and defeat it. So in this movie, which is also the second feature film from the director Dan Trachtenberg, and he did 10 Cloverfield Lane in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that one was pretty good, and then this is his second movie coming in. And, I think a lot of people have said that the Predator franchise has kind of been, falling off for quite a while. The original one was kind of a classic, and then they've sort of been going downhill over the decades. But this one, a lot of people have been saying is kind of a return to form for the franchise. And I must say, I agree. I really enjoyed this movie. It was a really fun action movie. It's not like scary or anything. I'm not a big fan of horror movies, but this is just a straight up action movie. It's just, human versus, or quite a few humans versus this predator monster alien that shows up on Earth. And the Predator can, it's got all kinds of technology, like it can turn invisible, and you can just kind of barely see its outline moving around. And then it's got all these high-tech devices for, firing missiles at small, like kind of like arrows, but, metal at people that it's aiming at, or it's got like a big shield that can block bullets and all kinds of things. And so this movie kind of centers around Naru, who is Amber Midthunder, and her tribe, and they're just kind of doing their thing, living their lives. A lion comes and grabs one of them, and they have to go find them. This is all right at the beginning. I won't spoil much here. But then the predator shows up, and they all have to start trying to deal with that. And Naru faces some extra kind of problems as she's trying to help out in hunting of this beast. Well, she's actually kind of the only one who's kind of blowing the whistle that there's something more out there than just a lion or some other animal. But because she's a woman in the Comanche tribe, that she is considered, she's supposed to be out gathering or whatever, while the men are out hunting. But she is determined to help out in the hunting as well. And her brother, who's kind of the greatest hunter of the bunch, kind of helps her to try that out. And yeah, so the movie just kind of centers around that. And as the predator comes in and starts wreaking havoc, they have to figure out a way to fight it, even though they have, very rudimentary weapons. And yeah, it's just a really fun movie. There's also Naru has a dog companion named Sari. And the dog I was reading about was adopted and specifically trained just for this film, and ended up doing so well that they added her into a bunch more scenes than were originally planned, including some of the action sequences, which was really fun. We love a good dog, and this movie's got this little dog Sari running around kind of the whole time. It's great.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. Yeah, the thing about the Predator movies, I think the reason maybe they've fallen off up until now is in part because I think they're fairly one-dimensional. I mean, it's always about this thing that comes to Earth and has an unfair advantage over whoever they're fighting, right? Because they can be invisible and have all these high-tech weapons. And so it's always this David versus Goliath story of whoever happens to be the prey and eventually beating the predator. Poor predator. The predator doesn't really do super well in a lot of these movies. I mean, army guys after the predator, all sorts of people fighting the predator. And what I read about this movie, and I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, it's kind of on my list. I read some people who are a little disappointed that it didn't end up in theaters because it's got a lot of really nice vistas and landscape scenes in the movie. Is that something that you enjoyed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's shot beautifully. A lot of the scenes kind of calls back some of the time to that movie, The Revenant, I think, the Leonardo DiCaprio one, where he's just kind of out in nature so much for like the whole film. And yeah, it's kind of got those vibes. They've got some really beautiful shots, and there's some really fun, cool scenes with various animals that kind of live around. And you kind of, see the circle of life a little bit. They'll zoom in on, a snake getting a small critter. And then they've got like this lion running around getting things. There's a really cool scene with a bear. And so that was fun to see kind of the animals doing things and to see all these sets that they shot on, which were really beautiful.
Very nice. Very nice. You know what? I am going to do a bonus pick for this week because there's a game I've been playing, Alex, that maybe you're familiar with, maybe not. It's called Super Mario Land 6 Golden Coins. This is a game from the 90s. It's Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. I'm
not familiar.
It's from the 90s. It's a Game Boy game. And I have an analog pocket. And you know what? Boy, this game is really good. I pulled out my analog pocket the other day again because they just updated to version 1.1 of the analog OS. And that is allowing some features that were promised very early on, but have not yet made their way onto the system, which is, for instance, when you put a game in and you press play, first it gives you a splash screen of some details about the game, the year it came out, the maker, the publisher, that sort of thing.
Right.
And eventually it's going to have some cover art there too. And then there's going to be the ability to take screenshots and stuff like that, which all of it is a little bit of a work in process, but I'm glad to see that they're actually pushing things forward now. There's also a new developer kit that allows people to create cores for other systems to allow the configuration of its internals to work with other game systems, not just some of these old Nintendo systems.
Very cool.
Yeah, and this game, 6 Golden Coins, it's just a really nice classic Mario game where the whole, as the name kind of suggests, it's all about collecting the coins. I mean, It's got that very early classic Mario feel to it. And with the analog pocket, you get the benefit of super sharp graphics that you can dial in. I've been playing it a little bit in the green mode. The analog pocket actually can emulate the actual way the screen looked on the Game Boy originally, which is kind of fun, but also kind of low contrast. So you can switch it up if you want to black and white, or you can switch it up to other colors too. But I've been kind of switching between modes and playing this game at night for half an hour here and there. And I'm it's one of those things that every now and then I just kind of dive back into these old games, and they're kind of my, I don't know, comfort food and snack food for short playing sessions when I'm not playing some other big game. So that's my pick. You can find those cartridges online. They're not super expensive, I want to say. I mean, that's one thing with buying some of these older games. Some of them can be very, very expensive, but I don't think 6 golden coins is. I'm actually looking it up as we speak because I want to see. Because I bought it. I did buy this used from Lukey Games. Lukey Games is one of my go-to sources. They've shipped to an awful lot of countries. It's LUKIE games.com. And this is only a $21.24 game. So there you go.
Not bad at all.
Say $20. You can enjoy this game yourself if you have an Analog Pocket, which costs a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
One of these days I'll get a Pocket, but yeah.
You should have entered our Automation April contest and tried to win it. I guess that wouldn't have been.
I did program the back end, John. I'm sure it wouldn't have raised any suspicions if I entered and won.
If you program the system to make Alex win every time. Yeah, I suppose you're right about that. All right, everybody. That's it for this week. We'll be back next Friday with another episode of Mac Stories Unwind. Until then, Alex, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at _AlexGuyot. That's AlexGuyot. And at Instagram at AJGuyot.
All right. And of course, I am at John Voorhees on both. That's JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you later, Alex.
Talk to you later, John.